So this is Dr. Kavita Singh, Associate Professor in Department of Civil Engineering, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So today we are going to discuss a topic called as groundwater. So groundwater is the water which is underground and it is percolated to the surface water, and through percolation it circulates under the ground as a groundwater. So as we know, the water on the surface as a fresh water, it's in a very limited quantity, like out of 100%, if we calculate the water, the 2.5% are as a groundwater, rest of the water is under the saline conditions. So to utilize this water for the any type of construction activities, any type of industrial activities, we have to study about the groundwater first. So let us go through this topic about the groundwater. So what is the groundwater basically, right? So groundwater is a very crucial and it's very important for the growth of any developmental activities, or it's very important for the sustainable development of a society, right? So what is groundwater? So groundwater is the water located beneath the earth's surface, okay, stored in the pores and cracks of soils, sand and rocks. It's a crucial part of the earth's hydrological cycle and is one of the most important, one of the most important of fresh water to human use. So it's a very important for human use. The groundwater, it is located under the earth's surface, as I said, and it is stored in the pores and cracks of the soil and sands and rocks. And it's very crucial part of the earth hydrological cycle. So the groundwater is also totally dependent to the hydrological cycle itself. So how groundwater forms? So it forms through precipitation. Okay, precipitation, rain, snow, etc. falls on the ground. Some of this water infiltrates in the soil and percolates downward. It collects in underground layers called as aquifers. The water table marks the top of the saturated zone, and our pore spaces are filled in the water. Okay, so forms of groundwater, basically when you talk about the precipitation. So precipitation is what? Precipitation will be in the form of either rain in the form of snow, okay, rain, snow, or hailstorms also we call it as precipitation. So falls on the ground. Some of this water infiltrates in soil, percolates downwards, and it collects the underground layers and called as aquifers. The water table marks the top saturated zone where all the pores spaces are filled within the water. So this is the water cycle. Basically we also call it as hydrological cycle, okay. So groundwater is totally dependent on this hydrological cycle. So what is a water cycle basically? So you can see here already water is present on the earth's surface. So from this earth's surface the water is evaporated, okay, evaporation will take place, then condensation will take place. After the condensation or this transpiration from the plants will take place. After that, when it cools down, it forms a cloud here, okay, forms a cloud here, okay, forms a cloud. So that clouds will be precipitated down, okay, these are the precipitation. So precipitation takes place in the form of first of all rain, snow, third thing is hailstorms. So these are the forms of, basically it's a forms of precipitation, okay. So it falls on the ground. Some of the portion you can see it has become as snow, some of the portion it is falling as a water, falls on the ground, it collects on the surface, and from surface what happens, slowly it percolates, okay, slowly it percolates and become as a groundwater. So this is how the cycle goes on. So as it comes on the surface, as it comes on the ground, again the evaporation will take place. This is a kind of cycle in the environment. It's a cycle in the with this by hydrological cycle, water cycle itself, the groundwater or the surface water will be uh, maintained. Okay. Now this is how the groundwater looks like when you talk about groundwater. So this is our land. This is our land surface, and on the land you have a surface water. Okay, surface water. So this is the surface water which is nearby the land. So it's not having too much depth here. So the when you talk about the layers of earth surface, beneath layer you have a zone here. We call it as unsaturated zone. Okay. Why we call it as unsaturated zone? So this is the zone which is known as unsaturated. Okay, unsaturated zone. Why unsaturated zone? Because it will have a space to absorb the water. I mean, if we pour the water here, the water is poured here, so it will absorb the water and it will flow here itself. Okay. Now, same area when you talk about the areas nearby the lake or nearby the water body, what happens? The unsaturated zone will be more thinner. Why? Because already the water is present on the surface, so there is no capability of percolation of the water. Now, beneath this unsaturated zone, we have a saturated zone here, saturated zone, and we have water table, we have a groundwater. So this area contains, this zone contains groundwater. Okay, groundwater. So we have a earth surface, then we have a saturated zone. We have an unsaturated zone where the water can be absorbed anytime whenever you pour water on the surface. It will be absorbed and taken up by the plants, or it goes down through the soil or sand. Okay. Then beneath you have a saturated zone where you have every time water is present. Right. All the time the water is present. So anytime when we are digging a pump, okay, digging a pump or a bore or a hand pump. So then what happens? The digging of this bore or hand pump should go down till the saturated zone. Okay, so this is a featured rock, somewhat gravel. So here, groundwater fills the spaces between the soil particles and fractured rock beneath the earth surface. So you have so many fractured rocks in this bedrock. Okay, so in this bedrock, wherever you have the fractured rock, there it's also the water is filled and it will produce as a groundwater. So like this, you have some gravels also beneath the earth surface. So gravel also will be having the water here. Now, when you talk about the aquifer, so aquifer is the most important in the groundwater here. So aquifer is a geological formation that stores. It's a geological formation that stores, transmits the groundwater. It's essentially an underground reservoir of water. So aquifer is nothing but it's a reservoir of water. Whenever we go with the pump well or something, like we are going with the digging of bores, we are going with the digging of the hand pumps. So there, the digging of that hand pumps, the water which we get into the supply, what we get through this pump or the bore wells, that is through the aquifer, because it's a reservoir. We can say reservoir. So it's an underground reservoir, which is a source of water, which is a source of water in the through the taps or through the bore or through the hand pumps. In society, when we are staying. Then that time this aquifer water itself, it will help us to get the more water under the more water through the bores or the hand pumps. Okay, essentially underground, and aquifers can made of porous materials like sands, like gravels, and the fractured rock, allowing water to flow through them. They allow the water to flow through them, and they are the crucial source of fresh water, various uses, including the drinking water, irrigation, and the industry. So this is the aquifer which you can see here. So we have unconfined aquifer, confined aquifer. So again we have confined aquifer. Okay. So here is the source from the stream. The water comes and percolate inside and goes as the water here. So this slowly the water is filled underground, and that underground water becomes as a aquifer or a reservoir. Okay. Then you have water table when you talk about groundwater. So there are places where the groundwater table, all the surface has a groundwater table. So when you see any type of lake or any water body. So this water body, when you go near to this water body, you will be finding the groundwater table. So table is high. Okay, near table is high. Okay, near table is high, and the groundwater surface of the soil is fully saturated with water. Now the surface itself will be saturated with the water. When you see here, this is a river. So near this river, when you check this area will be saturated with the water already, because it is near to the water body. It will just percolate inside and it will become as a groundwater again. So the upper level of the underground surface where the soil is fully saturated with water, the groundwater table is the upper surface of the saturated zone. So the groundwater table is the upper surface of the saturated zone where the soil or rock pores and fractures are completely filled with water. So the groundwater table is the upper surface here. So this is the winter water table, and this is the dry in summer. In summer, what happens? The table goes down. In winter, it comes up. Okay. So the saturated zone, wherever the saturated zone will be there, or the groundwater table is high there, when you try to dig a bore, try to dig a hand pump or well, there it will be easily within some feet down itself we may get the water. Okay, because the table is high. Now, nearby a reservoir or nearby a water body, if you try to dig a hand pump or if you try to dig a bore, then we need not go for the deepest digging of the bore and all. Within a few meters itself, we can get the water. So, it marks the boundary between the unsaturated zone above the saturated zone below, where water can be extracted through the wells. Now, the depth of the water table can fluctuate seasonally and regionally due to the factors like precipitation, evaporation, human activities like groundwater pumping. Then, in some cases, when you check the groundwater is low, it seems like due to the presence of what you can say, when the usage is more and the type of the soil is not good for the seepage and all storing the water, then in that cases what happens, the groundwater recharge is required. Recharge means to generate the water to make the water level high again. So recharge the process where the groundwater is replenished by rain or surface water. Groundwater recharge is the process by which water replenishes underground aquifers. Okay, so slowly what happens, suppose this is the area and this is the area. So we need this area to be filled with water, to be filled with water, In that case, what happens? We try to use this source and send this water to this source. So in that case, the groundwater recharge can happen, or else through the natural process through rainfall also, it can just replenish the water table. So it occurs naturally through the rainfall, snowmelt infiltrating the ground and the percolating down the water table. Artificial recharge methods such as the recharge wells or injection wells can also be used in the increased groundwater levels. Discharge, basically when you talk about the discharge here, so when groundwater flows to the surface like springs or wells, so groundwater discharge for the process where the water and aquifer moves to the surface or the different locations either naturally or through the human activity. So it can occur as a spring, it can occur as a seeps into the streams or lakes, or through the pumping from the wells. So this process is crucial for maintaining. Its process is crucial for maintaining the ecosystems, and can also be the source of water for the human use. So it can occur through springs, through seepage in the streams or lakes, and through the pumping of the wells. And this process is very crucial for maintaining the ecosystem and all. Now, what is the importance of groundwater? So, as we know, the water or the groundwater is very, very important for all the species. Here we say all the living beings, or else for non-living beings also, like for the industrial activities or cropping and all, we need for this the water is required. So first of all, the importance of groundwater here is drinking water. Drinking water, about 2 billion people on the rely on the worldwide. Irrigation essential for the agriculture. Okay, then you have the industrial, used in the manufacturing and energy production, maintains ecosystem, supports wetland, river and plant life. Okay, now along with this uses, along with their importance, there are some threats also. Okay, so when you use the groundwater, and there are a lot of chances of pollution based on the surface pollution, the groundwater is also getting disturbed. Okay, so can cause well, over extraction can cause wells to dry up, land to sink, and pollution forms pesticides, fertilizers, waste, industrial chemicals, and climate change affects the recharge rates or groundwater availability. Now, groundwater moves through soil due to rock gravity and pressure differences and all. So, the common types of groundwater movement, if we see, we have percolation. Okay, percolation. Now, what is percolation? Let us see. So, water from precipitation, rivers, or lakes infiltrates the ground and moves downward through the soil and porous rocks. So, this process is a recharge aquifer. Now, what is percolation here? So, percolation is the process by which water moves downward through the soil and the porous rock. So, under the influence of gravity, it is a key step in the recharge of the groundwater. Now, how the percolation works? If you see the working of the percolation, rain or surface water seeps into the ground. Rainwater, surface water seeps into the ground. Water passes through the layers, soil, sands, gravel, or rocks. So it eventually reaches the aquifer, where it may become a part of groundwater. Okay. Now, the second thing here is interflow. Okay, interflow is a lateral flow. It's a lateral flow. Water moves horizontally through unsaturated soils layers before the reaching the stream or the river. Before the reaching the stream of the river. And what is inflow here? So what is inflow here? Like a lateral flow. When you talk about inflow, lateral flow. So inflow is the lateral sideways movement of water within the soil, within the layers, or typically just below the surface, but about the groundwater, above the groundwater table. So it happens after the rain or snow melt, when water infiltrates and the soil, and then moves horizontally through the unsaturated zones. Now, where it occurs, basically where it occurs, if we see, so between the ground surface and water table, usually within the permeable or soil layers that sit on the top of the less permeable layers, like a clay here. So on the slope terrain, where gravity encourages sideways flow. Now, processes of interflow. Now, rainfall infiltrates the soil, water moves downward until it hits a less permeable layer, and instead of continuing down, it moves laterally. Continuing down, moves laterally along the layer. Eventually, it may enter into the stream, river, or wetland. Okay. Then you have a groundwater flow. So water moves through the saturated zone within the aquifers, and it flows depend on hydraulic gradient and permeability of the material. So what is groundwater flow? So groundwater flow refers to the movement of water. It refers to the movement of water through the pores and the fractures in the soil and rocks layers beneath the earth's surface. It's driven primarily by gravity and pressure differences, and it plays a crucial role in maintaining the rivers and lakes and ecosystems. So what is a groundwater flow? Basically, It's a very important for the movement of the water, and through it enters through the pores, through the fractures, through the soil rocks, layers beneath the earth's surface, which is driven primarily by gravity pressure. So gravity means it goes down automatically when it percolates, it goes down like this. Okay. Now springs and seepage. When you see springs and seepage, so when groundwater reaches and impermeable layer and is focused on to the force to the surface can occur naturally or as a seepage into the rivers and lakes. So what are springs here? So if you're talking about springs here, so spring is a natural outlet. It's a natural outlet where groundwater flows out to the earth's surface, and this happens when the water table intersects the ground surface, allowing water into the emerge without the drilling or pumping. Okay, so these are the springs. Now how springs forms? Water infiltrates the ground, percolates down to an aquifer. Okay, it flows along with the aquifer and it is blocked by the impermeable rock layers like clay, like you have a option as a shale. So when this water reaches a break in the surface like a hillside or a valley, it flows out as a spring. Now types of springs. What are the types of springs? So basically what is a springs like? So when the water, suppose this is the surface of the earth. Okay, surface of the earth. So now the water is percolating. So percolation taking place. So in this percolation, what happens? Suppose like here water infiltrates the ground, percolates down aquifer. It flows along the aquifer. It is blocked by impermeable. When the water is blocked by the impermeable rock layers like clay and shale, then it comes out as a spring. So when the water cannot percolate, there is a rock or the type of the soil which is not having capacity to percolate the water. In that case, what happens? The water comes out as a spring. So when the water reaches and breaks into the surface like hillside or valley, flows out as a spring. What are the types of spring here? So we have a gravity spring, we have an artesian spring, we have a sweepage spring, fracture spring. So our gravity spring is formed due to the gravity pulling of water, natural exit point. Artesian spring is pressurized water in a confined aquifer, flow to the surface through the cracks. And seepage spring is formed by the water slowly escaping through the porous soil and the transition into seepage. Fracture spring, water exits through cracks or falls in the rock. Next, we have artesian flow. If we talk about the artesian flow, okay, so occurs in the confined aquifer under the pressure. When a well is drilled, water may rise above the aquifer level, sometimes even to the surface. Now, what is artesian flow? Artesian flow occurs when groundwater under pressure is confined aquifer raises above the level of the aquifer and sometimes even all the way the surface without pumping. So if it reaches the surface naturally, it called as artesian spring or following the artesian well. How artesian flow happens? So confined aquifer. So groundwater is trapped first of all between the impermeable layers like clay or rock and recharge zone. Rainwater enters the aquifer as a higher elevation and pressure builds up. Gravity creates hydraulic pressure due to the difference in the height. Tapping of aquifer. If a well is drilled into this aquifer, water rises up the well. So that's the artesian flow, and then we have a base flow here. So the portion of stream flow comes through the groundwater seepage. It helps in the maintain the river level during the dry periods. And next is, what is the base flow basically? So base flow is the portion of stream flow that comes from groundwater seeping into a river or stream, especially during the dry weather conditions and when there is no direct runoff from the rainfall. So it's sometimes called as a dry weather flow or downward discharge to the streams. How base flows works here? So base flow is like a rainwater infiltrates into the soil, percolates down to the recharge ground, and groundwater slowly flows through the aquifer. So when it reaches a stream or riverbed, it discharges only gradually into a This provides steady flow of water to river and even when there is no rain. Now, groundwater exploration, if we talk about, so objective of groundwater exploration locates the groundwater reserves. The main objective of the groundwater exploration here is to find out the reserves of groundwater, determine the depth, thickness, and the extent of the aquifer, estimate the quality and quantity of the available water, and find the best sites for the drilling wells. Find out the best sites for the drilling wells. Methods of groundwater exploration here is geological investigations. We can find out. So, what is geological investigation? Study rocks, types, soil geological structures, and looks for the water bearing informations, porous and permeable rocks. You have a hydrological surveys, observe springs, rivers, existing wells, measured water levels, flow rates, and seasonal variations. And geophysical methods are, so these are the non-invasive and effective for the deeper exploration here. So electrical resistivity methods detects changes in the subsurface. Resistivity useful in the identifying the water saturated zones, and seismic refraction uses shock waves to map surface subsurface layers. Okay, magnetic and the gravity surveys says help understand the structure of the rocks formation. Ground penetrating radar says good for shallow groundwater detection. Now in this we have remote sensing and GIS. Use the satellite images. First of all, we can use an aerial photography, identify drainage patterns, vegetation stress, and geological features. GIS helps in mapping and managing the large scale groundwater data. So this was about the groundwater. You have seen like groundwater is so important and how it is useful for the distribution system. So as we have a very less fresh water, you need to save the groundwater and try to um, make the environment clean so that the distribution of the groundwater will be suitable for the order society. These are the contents which are, these are the references which you can go through. References in sense, Keshavulu and Janna Venkatreddy Vasudev Kaniti or F.G. Bell or Gokhale, which you can just go through this book to find out the more content about it, and to get more enhanced information you can just go through these books and get more information. So that's all for today. Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.